again, thank you, Paula White, and we will know that we will enjoy this demonstration.
And Paula, please unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. There's nothing like being silent, is there, when you're trying to teach? Thank you so much for coming into my studio. Thank you for having me in this demonstration. I wanted you to see me, and then next thing you'll see is you're going to see me painting and not me. You're going to see my hand, how I work, how I sketch. I'm going to go through this first fire, and on this first fire, we're going to paint leaves, and we're going to paint the first fire on the grapes. The most important part of painting to fire anything is loading your brush. So you will have to load your brush good. You can't put on a little bit of dab of paint. You have to load it all the way across and then place your paint. And right now I'm going to get up and I'm going to go around the table and we'll start this demonstration. I guess not. All right. What we have here is a sketch. And so this sketch, I'm going to show you how I got this sketch. And I have a plain rim plate that I'm working on. My finished product is on a blue rim plate. And these blue rim plates are gorgeous when you just paint into the center of the piece. Then you don't have to enhance the edges or anything like that. We're going to paint with a cruciform design. Now, here's my plain plate. That cruciform design, we're going to lay it in with a color called South Brown, which is basically a yellow red. And when we're working with a cruciform, it's basically a cross. So I'm putting in the vine. This is the vine that's going to hold this painting together. And I'm coming across to the edge. Then we're going to make the cross part of this cruciform. Well, on this cross part, we're going to have this come up, and this is going to be where the grapes are going to, a lot of the center of interest is going to be located. And that's going to put the focus right in this area. And then this part, the part of the cruciform that I'm talking about is there's always something up here. It comes down here and cuts its piece into 4 different sections that are all different sizes. The next thing we're going to do, now, if you traced your design on, that's super. Just follow along. You can still follow along to put South Brown or yellow red on the stem. You can follow along to do that. Then off of here, off of these joints, every grape vine has joints. Off of these joints come the leaves, the grapes, and the tendrils. And you can have leaves and tendrils, you can have grapes and tendrils, or you can have leaves and grapes. So, but just they do know that they come off of a joint here. When you're making the leaf has 5 individual veins that are very important to the shape of the leaf. I particularly like a leaf that has, I'll show you this, a leaf that has kind of little segments that come in, and some serrated edges. Those are the kind of leaves I like. Now, every species of grape has a different kind of leaf. When I'm painting, I paint the kind of leaf that I like. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to come down and off of this is the main vein, off of this main vein, and every one of these other veins come out from off of that vein. This one's going to come up and it's going to separate, it's going to cover up part of this long line that I've drawn through there. Then this will be the other main vein. And then there's two more and they come in between. One comes this way and one comes that way. Okay. Then when I get those main veins in, I sketch around those. Now I'm going to just soften this out so you can see that I'm sketching over this helps me to, I'm sketching over this long line that I put in here. And that's important because I want to break up that long line. And I don't want it to be a great big long vine there. I want it to be broken a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to dip in and I'm going to make the part of the leaf that comes this way and the part that comes down this way. All I need, you know, I've probably painted 2 million grapes, more or less, maybe more. And it's easy for me. It may not be so easy for you, but it's easy for me. And so I kind of know where I'm going. I make up my mind, where am I going with this leaf before I sketch it on there. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main veins here. I'm going to cut this one off a little bit. It's just a little bit too long, but that makes a nice shape on the leaf. Now, for the top part of that stem work, that vine, so to speak, I'm going to use a little bit of French green, which is a gray green color, and I'm going to come right along the top part of that stem, make that little joint there. That's where I'm going to curl around in a minute, around the vine. And then I'm going to go on and put that cooler color. It's a cool gray green. I'm going to put it on top of that nice warm yellow red color. So that'll help hold my painting together here. All right. I'm going to get that out of my brush and I'm going into some cobalt. Now, if you don't have cobalt, you can use any kind of blue that you have. That's just the color of the grapes. They're blue, so that's what I'm going to use. Okay, and so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make this a grape right here. All right, and then this stem work's going to come down this way. And next to it, I'm going to lay another grape, but I'm going to overlap that area right there. And then I'll come underneath and I'll fill in a place there where there'll be more grapes. Then I'm going to come out this way. Now, in your packet I gave you, I also gave you a image of the grapes and how they're hooked to the stem. So you'll see the stem work there, and then you can hook the grapes on that stem work. That'll help you know where these grapes are going to go. Now, I like to let that grape bunch flow, so I'm going to overlap those with another grape. This one's probably going to be on top. I probably know that ahead of time. And I'm just going to quickly sketch these in here. At least I can show you where I'm going with this. And then I'm going to, because I've already sketched those, I'm going to pick up this piece and show you how I'm going to start out. Now, I want to paint what is underneath. It's important to paint what is underneath first. Okay. So we're going to paint the leaves that are underneath. This leaf and this leaf are underneath the grapes. This leaf is on top of the grapes. So we'll put the leaves in that are underneath first. These are new growth leaves, so that I use chartreuse and a little bit of warm green. So I load my brush really good with chartreuse, and then on the edge of that brush, about a third of the way across, I'm putting warm green in. So when I lay that brush down, now, if that's a little dark, I'm not concerned with that. I might get some of that warm green out and go on into the chartreuse. And I paint in that shape. And I'm going to wipe out the highlights in just a minute. Now, I sketched that leaf on with blue, and that's just fine because these are blue grapes and we want that color on there. We want to smooth the stroke. When you put the stroke on, you hit it 2 or 3 times and you smooth it out so you don't have any pile up of paint, especially when you're using a full load. Now, on this leaf is South Brown and Gold Ochre. So remember, South Brown's a yellow red, and I'm going to pick up my yellow red. I clean my brush a little bit, and I'm picking up some yellow red, and I'm going to pull it right in here where it's going to hook on to a stem right there. And I'll pull it right down there. So I just make these strokes like this, just small strokes connecting these areas that I want to connect. And I'm not concerned about the blue. When you mix that blue with that yellow red, it's going to have a little gray in it. And that's just great for the leaves. It won't hurt a thing. Then I'm going into my Gold Ochre, which is a yellow orange color. And I'm using my 1/2-inch brush because I use my bigger brush when I'm painting the leaves. And then I use a 3/8-inch brush for painting the grapes. The one that I was sketching with is a number 2 script liner. Okay, so now I want to turn this just a little bit, and I'm going to pick up that edge. See how that color change? We've got this beautiful color change here from yellow red into Gold Ochre. Now, notice how many strokes I made. I only laid that stroke down and connected it to the yellow red. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to lay that stroke down, and I'm going to pick up a little bit of that blue. That's going to gray, make a little bit of a green color, and that's going to connect that. Now I've got enough paint on these leaves that I can wipe out some highlights on them. So I'll clean my brush in my oil. I clean my brush in my oil. If you're wondering what I'm dipping into, it's my oil. So my oil is a semi-open medium, which means that it will set up, but it won't get dry. And the reason I want it to set up is because when I lay these strokes down and I hit it the next time, then I want to make sure that that paint stays right where I put it. If I use a medium that is too open, when I hit it the next time, it'll actually pick up my paint. Okay, well, I want to highlight right here. So I'm going to go up to the edge, and I'm going to lay my brush down, and I'm going to give it a little pull. So I have a little bit of a highlight. If you hear a little bit of a roaring, they're cleaning the yard. They're mowing. Sorry about that. I thought we could get by without that, but it looks like it's going to happen. Here, I'm going to lift out a piece of light right here. Just pick up the edge. If I need a sharper light, I scoop and then soften the edge. And I use my brush to change the edge of the leaf if I want to change the edge of the leaf in some way. Okay, this leaf is, I'm going to show you where the vein is on this leaf. The vein on this leaf, one of them is right here. Okay, the other one is right here. So this leaf, I'm going to lay my brush at the edge of the vein and I'm going to pull right there. See how I got a little piece of light, sharper highlight? I scoop with my brush. These sharp brushes are a blend of synthetic and real hair. So it's easy to scoop because the synthetic hair will give you that little bit of tension there that you can scoop with the edge of it. Okay, see how I take these lights out? That's what's important to my painting. I'm all about the light. What happens when the light hits the leaf? Okay, now we've got those two leaves in. Now, this is bugging me a little bit. I got a little bit of heavy paint here. I'm not going to let that bother me. I'm going to pull it out a little bit, pull it into here, and I'm going to put a grape over that in just a minute. So if you wonder what I'm doing, I'm pushing in to separate these leaves right there a little bit. Now I'm going to get my 3/8 inch brush. We're going to leave this leaf. This leaf is on top, so we're going to paint these grapes that are underneath first. My color scheme, if you read my directions, my color scheme goes into analogous colors that lay close together on the color wheel. We're going into like cerulean blue, which is kind of like, you could use baby blue if you don't have that, cobalt, and then a blue black. And from there into deep berry. Deep berry, I'm going to just make a stroke here for you. Deep berry is a red violet color. It's a beautiful color. And one of the things that is great about it is you can mix it with any of these blues and make any kind of purples that you want. So my color scheme goes from blues into a purple color, a red violet color. Then with that red violet and also these blues, you can make any kind of purples that you want on your grapes. If you want them more blue, then you lean more towards the blue family. All right, I'm going to turn it around because when I start with these darks, and I'm going to start with the ones that are underneath, I'm going to load my brush with the deep berry, and I'm going to start with the grapes that are underneath. Okay, so there's a deep berry one, and here's another, and these are all underneath. When I paint a grape, it's easy. I go this way, and then I overlap, and I go that way, and then I mature it, so I have a round object there. That's the best way that I can think of to tell you how to paint the grapes. Here, this grape is underneath this one. So I'm going to paint that grape as if it is a whole grape and as if it's laying on top, because I'm going to come back and paint these that are on top of it. So I'm working up my, I'm going to fill in this little space here, right here with that red violet color. And then I'm going to come up to this grape right here so that red violet color comes up next to my leaf that's here. Now, I might mix that red violet, go back and mix it with a little bit of my blue black. These are the grapes that are going to be underneath. So I'm going to mix that a little bit with my blue black, and it's going to change the color to a kind of a blue violet color. And I'm just overlapping these grapes and moving up the cluster. You can mix, and then if you want a little more blue in this and not so much purple, then you clean that up with more blue and go into your cobalt. Remember, none of this is going to really make mud. You're not going to make mud because all these colors are laid close together on the color wheel. Okay, I'm going to use some cobalt here and just a little bit of blue black. And I'm going to fill in right in here in this area with that color and move on up. I'm just going to paint that over that leaf, but when I get through with this leaf is going to be on top of those grapes. This is going to be underneath the leaf. Moving on up. Now I'm going to change color, get that out of my brush, and I'm going into the lighter value. I'm going into the cerulean color or baby blue or any light value blue that you want on the grapes. Okay, and then I'll go back here and see how much lighter that is, lighter value. Painting this now, I'm painting these lighter value grapes. I'm going to connect these two right here on top of those purpley grapes that we just put underneath. Now, this is where you have to be careful right here. I got a straight line. Well, I want to break up that straight line. So I'm going to come out here, put another grape so that that straight line's not there. Not that grapes don't hang in a straight line, but they don't look good when you got a bunch of straight lines on your painted piece. When I get through with all this, the grapes that are on top will be wiped out. Now, you can do two things. You can wipe them out with your finger, which I'll do, or you can wipe them out with your brush. It doesn't really matter which you do. You can see how I make that rounded stroke and then I mature that stroke so I don't have a lot of streaks in my brush. And you also notice, I'm sure, that I am not picking up any paint. It's laying right where I put it. And there's no paint coming back on my brush. It's still laying right where I put it. Now I'm going to change into a little bit of, just because I want a little bit of green in this, because I've got green here, I'm going to change into my chartreuse and a little bit of French green, and I'm going to paint these grapes right here with a little green on them. In the end, there will be some grapes with green. Look at this pretty red color I've got in them too. You have to be careful. You don't want to get it too muddy, but it is a grayer color. And you'll notice that a lot of times if you look at grapes, that they'll have a little bit of grayish color on them. Okay, let's turn this around and look at it. So basically what we have is we have nice flat grapes that we're going to wipe out first the stem that comes down through it. And as I said, I've included in my packet a stem that goes, that shows you how they grow the grapes. That's important. Okay, so we're going to wipe out with a wipeout tool. We're going to wipe out a stem that comes down through here. It's going to hold up these grapes right here. Now, okay, I'm going to have to paint in a stem right here so that this stem comes down here. Now, I'm going to stop it right there because I'm going to press out a grape that's going to be on top. That's important that we wipe out or press out the grapes that are going to be on top. You can use your smaller brush. You can use your smaller brush and come in and smooth that out if you don't like your fingerprint. Just be careful about getting them too big. Now, if you get them too big, You can cut them down with a wipeout tool, or you can come in and paint the one that's on the bottom first, and then come back and re-wipe the one on top out. But this stem is going to come down through here and connect to these grapes that are in here. Okay, I'm going to move this grape because I don't like the way it feels, so I'm going to take it off. That's the one I showed you how to make a grape. All right, while those are kind of setting up before I wipe them out, I like to have them set up a little bit. I'm going to go over here with a little bit of blue black and just a tiny bit of deep berry, not much. And I'm going to paint these over here on this side. And as we go, we're going to load a little more blue black in our brush so that we can get these darker underneath. Overlap. And this one's underneath, so we're going to overlap it. I'm going to put it on top of those and put it underneath. If you paint too light, you're not going to be able to do these in 2 fires. You'll have to go back and especially you'll probably have to go back and paint the ones that are underneath again. Okay, I'm going to turn this around and paint the one that is on top here. Now, if I don't like the way those lay, I think they're going to be all right. But if I don't like the way they lay, I change it. But right now, I'm going to just draw a stem in here and one that goes over to these over here. I think that'll work. Okay, now we're going to go back and we've got some veins in, some stems in here. So I'm going to start up at the top and I want to wipe out. I'm going to wipe out one that's on top. Okay, so I use my ring finger to do that because it's the one that has the most sensitive touch. If I use my other fingers, I'm too heavy-handed. So I use my ring finger and wipe out a little grape. And when I wipe it out, what it does is it leaves a shadow on the underneath side. Then in a minute, I'm going to show you how to wipe out a good strong highlight and a reflected light, because grapes have, especially the ones on top, are going to have that. I'm trying to add to the cluster. So when I add to it, and I'm not wiping out all these grapes that are underneath, I'm just wiping out the ones on top. It's important that we just wipe out the ones that are right up on top. Okay, and in here, I'm going to meld some grapes together. So I'm going to wipe out 2 grapes at least, so that I can show you how to meld the light. So I've pressed one grape out. I'm going to come back and press the other one out. When you meld the light, you lose an edge. So I'm losing, notice I'm scooping here, and I'm losing this edge where these 2 grapes go together. Because when you have a strong light, then you lose edges where you've got a strong light. I'm going to pick up a little bit of a highlight there. I'm going to make that highlight look interesting. I'm not going to make it just a dot, but I'm going to make it look interesting. In this case, I'm going to go on down and I'm going to add another grape here. And this grape, I'm actually going to leave that beautiful yellow red color on that grape so that it picks up the color of the leaf. That works so nice when you're trying to wipe out the grapes and still leave a little bit of highlight. So that means a little more pressure on the very end of your finger, and then you lift as you come back. So here, wiping out a grape here. This one's on top. See what happens? We've already created depth in this painting. So because we are wiping out the ones that are on top, we've created darks back in here already. And that's what makes it easier to do these in two fires, is that we're trying to leave those darks back behind. And then as we come down this cluster, I try to see, well, where do I want another grape? Right here. And I think I'm going to put 3 there. So I'm wiping out another one, overlapping and putting 3 grapes there. Don't wipe out all the ones you've already painted in. That you don't want to do that, because if you do, then you're going to have to go back and paint them back in. And you don't want that. Okay, when you get down to the bottom, this is where you have to be careful, because when you get down to the bottom, if you've got these grapes on top right here, if they're on top, you've got to have a stem. But if they're back behind, then you don't have to have a stem and it doesn't have to show. But I am going to overlap this one on top of the 2 that are underneath. Okay, and then I'm going to use just a little bit of green, and I'm going to put in, this is chartreuse. I'm going to put in just a couple of new growth grapes right here at the bottom of the cluster. Okay, now I'm going to go over here and wipe out my grape that's on top. And I'm going to wipe out another one right here. See the depth that I've got already? That's kind of exciting when you can actually make it look like there's grapes back behind and it's no longer flat. Okay, so I'm looking at this and I know that there's a lot of empty space here and I don't want all that empty space. So this is where I'm going to use some blue black and some cobalt. And I'm going to put in a couple of grapes here where they're touching. And I'm going to fill up that space right there. Okay. Works pretty good. Just put it in there. Then I'm going to bring a stem down and hook those together. Now, I've got all this in here, and I'm going to take a number. This is a number aught. It's actually a little wipeout tool. I mean, a wipeout brush. It works really good. I get these from Sharf, and they work really good. So I'm going to clean out. All right. I'm going to clean up the edge. So I'm cleaning up the edge of that one. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to take out the highlight. So I'm going to take out a nice sharp highlight here on this grape. It's on top. Don't have to show a stem because the stems are back behind. And then I'm going to come on the opposite side. The reflected light is on the opposite side of the highlight. Okay, so here you have the highlight and a reflected light. Every grape does not have a highlight and a reflected light, but the ones on top definitely will, because you're going to see that light. I'm just cleaning up some edges. Now, if there's a sharp light here, it's going to bounce right over in there. Why do I know this? Because I have studied and studied and studied the light in photographs and in the vineyards. I spent 6 weeks in California many years ago studying in the vineyard, but going out there, taking pictures of the light early morning, noon, late evening, so that I know where the light's going to hit. Now, if you're in the studio and you're painting a still life, that's another story, because you have control of the light. But if you're outdoors, you don't have control of the light. Only God's got control of that. So you can go in there and I'm straightening up edges. That's also what I'm doing. Here, I'm making sure I'm losing this edge here. This is part of my focal area right in here. You can see that these grapes that are on top, they're going to be part of my focal area. I'm going to carry that light from here right into this grape. And I'm going to let a little piece of light hit that grape right there, losing an edge. Looks like a mistake, but it's not, because it just shows where the light's going to hit this grape and this grape at the same time. Then this grape is probably going to be in shadow. And when I get ready to wipe out this leaf and paint it in, then it will be in shadow. So I'm back here. I love these two grapes. Going to make this one a little bigger. This was gorgeous here where that yellow red is. I want that on that grape. If I didn't have it on here now, I'd add it later, tomorrow, or in the next fire, I should say, second fire. All right, I'm going to pick out a piece of light here. And then the reflected light. So I'm going to come on around and make the reflected light on that grape. A little bit of reflected, I'm going to point my brush a little bit of reflected light here. This is going to show you, when you start looking at this light, then this is going to show you where the light's hitting these objects. Then if you want to look at that light, okay, well, we've got a lot of sharp light right in here. So that means we're going to have a little bit of sharp light right in here on this leaf. It's going to be a little bit lighter than when it's finished. Okay, and I'm just moving down through these. If your brush is not as pointed, I just roll it a little bit and that will point it up. I'm not using anything to wipe this out with except for cleaning that brush a little bit in my oil. So all it's doing is just picking up a little bit of paint from the grapes. I'm going to go ahead and leave these two on top and make a little reflected light right there. I'm going to push in a little highlight right there, soften it, pull a little light here on that edge, push a little light on that grape and a little bit on this one. Then I'll go into the grapes over here, little reflected light, highlight. I want a little highlight right there. That's going to make that look like there's little dark stems back there holding that up. So I'll hit a little light right here on the edge, and a little light here where this overlaps the other one. You can't have too much light on your grapes. Now, if you wipe them out all white, all of these, that's all right. We can put in the shadows the next fire, but I'd rather you didn't. I'd rather you try to learn to leave a little bit of the color of the one that's underneath on it so that you don't have to do that. And I'm just looking at things to try to clean up a little bit here. Okay. One of the things, I'm going back with my liner brush real quick. And I'm going to put a little bit of a stem right here. Okay. Just kind of break that up a little bit. Now let's paint this big leaf real quick. Okay. If you looked at your study, it says paint the top leaf with gold ochre, yellow red, and warm green. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with gold ochre. That's the lightest value that's going to be on this leaf. So I'm going to start in here and I'm going to pull that edge and shape that edge as I'm pulling it with that gold ochre, okay? Right there. So I just put it on the edge of that leaf. Then I'm going to move into my yellow red, and I want it a little bit heavier in here. And I want that yellow red down in the center of that leaf right down there. And I just make these nice strokes, nice smooth strokes. And then I'll show you how to soften the edge. Okay, that's going to make that dip in a little bit there where that leaf is. All right, now we're going into the, we got the yellow red, and we're going to use the gold ochre. We're going to take that gold ochre and we're going to pick up the edge of that yellow red, and I'm just lightly blending it and picking up the edge of it. And I'm pulling that leaf right over that stem and over the edge of those grapes right there. And I'm turning this around, and I'm going to put in just a little bit of chartreuse. I just feel like I need that at this point. So that's going to change the color a little bit and put in this edge of the leaf. Okay. And I'm pulling the edge of the leaf over the grapes. If I pull blue into it, that's just fine. It's not going to hurt anything. A little bit more gold ochre. I'm picking up the edge there and pulling it right into and over the edge of the grapes. This time I'm going to use a little bit of chartreuse. I said warm green, but chartreuse or yellow green is a warm green. So if I choose to use that, then that's the color that I'm using. There's a darker warm green, but this time I'm just using this gold ochre and a little bit of yellow green together to make the edge of this leaf. I'm just forming the edge by pulling the brush around and making the edge of the leaf. And putting it right over those grapes. How's that? So we've got that leaf there. Now, when you're wiping out the highlights on this leaf, one thing it'll help you if you'll just lay your brush down and find your veins again. So there's one, here's two, it's going to be here. Let's see where the other one is. It's going to be right here. This is three. And then this one, they all come out of the same place. Now, don't be putting them, don't paint them like rose leaves because they don't look like that. They all come out of this area right here. This is where the stem hooks into the leaf. So you want all of the veins to come out there. And so here, okay, now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 veins. Now I'm going to use those veins to wipe out and to kind of form the highlights and form the segments that are on the leaf. Okay, so first I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to grab a hold of this and I'm going to lay my brush down and turn it a little bit on its side, and I'm going to pick a highlight out there, right there, so that leaf is no longer flat but has a light and a shadow in here. Okay, then I'm going to come right on this one and I'm going to also pull out a little light just like that. And here I'm going to pull out a little light. Here I'm going to take this and pull the light. That's going to give me a nice, don't take it all out of this dark center, but pull it out away from the center. Okay, there's probably going to be some light right here. And I'm going to turn it around and there'll be a piece of light right here. Okay. Now that leaf has some form on it now. Okay. That leaf makes it look like that it's going down in, so it's cupping in, and then it has light where the light is going to interconnect with these grapes. Okay, I'm going to wind this up pretty quick. One last little thing I'm going to do. I was going to use a little bit of saran wrap, which I didn't get here, so we'll just forget that. I was going to use a little saran wrap to texture this leaf, but we need to wind this up pretty quick. So I want to take this off. And anything that I think I need, like adding a little bit of green to this top stem right here, right now, I'm going to put that in there. And I'm going to let that come off up here. Now I don't need those tendrils in there to break this up, but I can put tendrils up here, and tendrils are usually green. So we'll just put a few up right up in there. Here's a little bit of taking a little bit of plastic wrap. And after I put that in, I'm just going to hit that a little bit. That's going to put some texture in my leaf. It's always fun to put a little texture. And then I'll show you what to do to that. And if I get it all out in the plate, then I get it off with my finger. Okay. So this is where we're going, ladies. This is what you need on your piece to get to here. This is going to be our finished product. And what you need is to get on enough paint so that when you get those second fire darks in there, that it will really start making it look like a cluster. And if there are any questions before we have to get off, I'll be glad to answer them.
All right, if you would like to ask Paula some questions, you can unmute yourself one at a time and ask Paula, and then we'll go to the next one. So if someone would like to unmute themselves and ask Paula a question about her process.
Paula, what do you use to mix your paints, and what are you using for your medium?
Okay, I mix my paints with mineral oil, kind of a heavy base mineral oil. And then I paint with a semi-open medium, which has Copaiba. It also has probably a little bit of mineral oil. It's got some cloves in it. And that's all I know about it. I don't actually make it, but it's the one that I have worked with for years. Okay.
Thank you.
And
Hi, Paula.
okay.
This is Monica from India.
Hi.
I have one quick question. I want to know what is the difference in mineral oil and open medium?
Well, the mineral oil is kind of a heavy mineral oil. I just buy it from my I don't know if you know about Walmart or not, but that's where I buy it. You can also buy it at any drugstore. Now the paint, I buy it from a supplier. It's been hard to get. I mean, I don't mean the paint, but I mean the medium. It's been difficult to get, but you use clove oil in it, and you can use Copaiba. It has to be a thinner Copaiba. You don't want it too thick. And probably I'm sure it has a little bit of mineral oil in it because it's pretty greasy. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I'm going to, you have my email address, and pretty soon I'll have a video on Two Fire red grapes, a video on Two Fire plums with a study, and those will be eventually, those will be on my website. If you email me, I can give you that information. I still sell a little bit of paint. It's become very difficult for me to get, but I still have a little bit. And of course, the Sharp brushes, I've always carried those. And if you can't get them, if I don't have them, then you can always get them from Sharp.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula, for sharing your time and talents with us today.
Okay.
We really learned a lot of wonderful techniques, and your painting, as usual, was very beautiful and inspiring. This recording of the presentation will be posted on the iPad Museum YouTube channel and hopefully on the iPad website so that you can click onto it and have your other member friends click on and see it who were not able to participate today. Thank you again, Paula, and
Thank you.
look forward to your second Zoom, which will be the second Fire Grapes. So all you out there, look and keep up with the iPad websites for the ad and the date. But the second Fire Grapes will be coming very soon. Thank you.
It'll be,
You all have a
yeah.
nice day.
Thank you,
Thank
Paula.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're